Hello, everyone. We're here to discuss the launch of episode 2 Revenant. I know I am a little late with this impressions video. I was gone for the first week of this episode, and I was, trying to collect my thoughts and just play everything that's out, including the dungeon. And with the entirety of Act 1 essentially being completable in about an hour and a half or so, there really isn't too much to do in this act, and a couple things to prefix this video with is that, one, this is a criticism of the delivery mechanism. I mean, this is essentially just more Destiny, and it's not anything bad, but this video is more so to just give some criticism on that delivery system, how all of this act really just felt like, it was just a random week in a season that, you came in on reset and you did a few steps and that was it. And I think the goal maybe with the story pacing is to come back in Act 2 and just have a ton of stuff to do. And the problem with that is, of course, the dungeon, which is great, by the way. I truly do enjoy the dungeon. You do need the final shape dungeon key in order to do it. However, that system will be rid of that system in 2025. You won't have to buy those dungeon keys anymore, but this is the last dungeon in which you have to own the key in order to play it. But I highly suggest playing it. It's probably better to buy the dungeon key than the episode, at least so far, right? We still have a lot to go on. But first, I want to dive into tonics because I really don't like this system overall. It's not revolutionary. It doesn't add anything. It definitely reminds me a lot of Season of the Witch with the deck of cards. I forget what it was called, but they gave you bonuses. You didn't really pay attention to them. Nobody really cared. You just kind of collected them for the triumphs and stuff. I like the idea of making the tonics. I really just don't think they do anything that you're going to care about, right? They buff artifact mods primarily, and you don't really need the buffs that they give you. They're just there, and really you want to focus on the loot buffs, which again give you the ability to focus seasonal weapons, including some reprised weapons from Splicer, which is cool. I like that, but again, I'd much rather have an attunement system or something of that design. I know that we had that in Into the Light, but it was a system that worked really well. It gave players at least a little bit of agency over what was going to drop, and even if you were attuning something, there was no guarantee that you were going to get the roll you wanted, so you weren't going to essentially be handed this really good weapon off the bat. You had to still put in some work for it. Aside from that, I really think that these tonics should have worked more like Traveler's Blessings on the Pale Heart. More like passive buffs that don't really have anything to do with the artifact at all. But like, say they just grant you volatile rounds when you kill an enemy with void damage or something along those lines, which is what most of the Traveler's Blessings are like in the Pale Hearts. Just a thought that they should have nothing to do with the artifact, give you separate buffs that actually feel impactful. And I talked about the story pacing already just a little bit. Echoes had a similar problem in the fact that there's such big gaps in between these story beats, and I don't like it. I really don't like it, because in 15-20 days, however many days are left before Act 2, people are gonna be like, wait, what happened in Act 1? And you might have to go back and watch cutscenes and get caught up, because listen, the 20 or 30 days in between acts is a lot of time. The delivery system and the way these episodes have been released, it really makes it hard to care about the story and to keep up with the story. I think, we were tired of the weekly format in seasons, and I think bi-weekly, or even something else to consider, is what if we had multiple story releases in a week? Like you start an act and a little bit of story comes out on, you know, a Tuesday, and then you get a little chunk more on a Thursday or a Friday. Just an idea, but the main reason people wanted the weekly system out was because of the fatigue of having that year in and year out with each and every season. And shaking it up, I don't think was too much for the community to ask. And of course, with Echoes, it didn't seem like it was getting shaken up at all. It was essentially the same format until they were like, yeah, this is the end of this act. We'll see you for Act 2 in 20 days or so. And again, Echoes still kind of suffered from that. I'm not saying my suggestion would magically fix these problems, but who knows, it would at least be nice to, again, switch it up and see what works instead of these long hiatuses, so to speak. And I guess it would be fine if these long breaks worked, but part of the reason they take these breaks is to increase the quality of the content. And I talk about it a lot. I'm just going to bring it up one more time. And with Encore, the exotic mission from Echoes, that was supposed to be a juiced up, beefed up exotic mission. And listen, it was okay, but in terms of exotic missions, it was nothing extraordinary, right? It was what we're used to in that regard. And quite similarly to the dungeon, the exotic mission was absolutely abused in terms of quest steps. We had to go back and do so many things in that mission that you just got so fatigued so quick with that mission. And now, like, it's a pinnacle, this episode, but I don't want to do it because I've done it so much and I'm burnt out so fast on that mission. And I know people are going to say, well, if they released everything at once, you're going to get burned out anyways. And that's not the case, because the amount that we got, sure, we were able to do everything in an hour and a half and go do something else, right? No burnout, no not, you know, over delivery, but it was severe under delivery, which just leaves you wanting more, which I think was the intention, because again, Act 2 will most likely be an extremely heavy act. But the problem with doing that is that Vesper's host has to carry everyone until Act 2. And Vesper's host doesn't have the legs alone to stand on in order to do that. And it's not to say that Vesper's host is a bad dungeon, it's just that, again, people are going to get tired of it. And that brings me to Onslaught as well, because Onslaught has a similar problem. Into the Light, the main mode was Onslaught. And it was great because it was fresh, it was new. We got these reprised weapons that are really good. And yeah, but they essentially didn't really change Onslaught that much. It's, I mean, at the core, it's still Onslaught, right? So if you like Onslaught, you're gonna play this Onslaught and be like, not bad. But the major issues with the original Onslaught carry over into this new version. You either play normal and it's too short and not challenging and you're falling asleep, or you play expert and, you know, for the first 20-30 waves or so, you're cruising, and then you hit a wall and you have to kind of sit up in your gaming chair and start actually playing. And there's no happy medium between the two where you can play like a 25-30 wave version that's moderately challenging and gives you a decent amount of loot. There's no in between. Another issue with this is that Onslaught didn't come out that long ago. It came out in April, right? Which is just 6 months ago. And we're already relying on it to essentially start a season. Now, I know that Tomb of Elders is on the way, Prison of Elders, I've been wanting something like that for a while to come back into this game. But the problem with Onslaught and Tomb of Elders, if it is to be a Prison of Elders reboot, they are very, very, very similar. And so you can imagine that the fatigue will just increase with these modes, and unless Tomb of Elders is, you know, fun or super challenging and rewarding, people are probably going to get pretty tired of that as well. We'll have to see, but again, the similarities between both of these modes, they're essentially like a horde mode type deal. I'm really hoping that Tomb of Elders is similar to Coil, because that's really the closest thing to it in Destiny 2. And listen, Coil was fantastic, right, with the scaling difficulty and all that. So, you know, hopefully it's that good, but we will have to see if that is indeed the case. Adding to Onslaught was always a good plan because people loved it. The execution just wasn't there, right? I think creating, again, that midway point of a playlist would have been a nice idea. On normal, it just feels like glorified patrol, and expert, again, really hard and really long, no pun intended there. Echoes also, I have to say, in comparison to Revenant, you know, we had Enigma Protocol, we had the other seasonal activity, I think Reach Executable was what it was called, and we got those new battlegrounds too. There was really like a lot of content, and I'm still really upset that they didn't do more quest stuff with the battlegrounds, because that was a really fun part of the season, at least for me. Maybe not everyone liked the battlegrounds. It's not just about me, but you know, most people have probably forgotten about them because, again, they're not in any other format, but I mean, those were fun in my opinion. And we'll have to see if Acts 2 and 3 can salvage what little there is in Act 1. I think that will happen. But in terms of first impressions for this episode, they're not great, simply because there's just not enough to go off of. And I do think that this will be more like a heavy loaded on the other side, right? Like a back loaded season instead of a front loaded, which again is a change of pace, because usually the end of the season is a slog and nobody wants to play and everyone goes to other games, which is fine, but it seems like it's the other way around this time. So I guess I did get my wish in terms of Bungie shaking it up. Anyways, I'm excited for Act 2. I'm excited for Tomb of Elders. I'm gonna play it either way. Again, this is just criticism. Hopefully someone at Bungie listens to it. Maybe it starts a conversation with you and your friends about stuff. I'm sure these opinions, again, are probably throughout the community shared, because yeah, the start of this episode was just not good in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, with that in mind, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I don't usually ask to subscribe, or I haven't been recently. A lot of people who watch these videos are not subscribed, and it's free. It helps me out a ton as I am starting this content creation journey. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.